This is the first episode that explores the individuals featured in my 2013 book, Tales from Altoona Cemeteries. These videos are not meant to be a replacement for the people profiled within the book, but as an accompaniment. What I have found is that even years after death, there is still a story to be told. The plan is for this series to explore the rest of the story that has been discovered since the publication of the book. Utilizing modern technology and the knowledge I have acquired over the course of the past 8 years, I look forward to sharing these new details through a more interactive form than that of a book. Throughout this journey, I plan to explore some of the people who did not make it into the first book, and hopefully give a preview of some of the ones who will appear in Volume 2 of Tales from Altoona Cemeteries. The details of Jesse Dorman's early life comes from the story of Wiley D. Dorman and his descendants by Leslie Lawson Ennis. Jesse Calvin Dorman was born on the 23rd day of July, 1837, in Chambers County, Alabama. The second son of Wiley Dorman and Elmira Jones Dorman, he was the sixth of 15 children. Jesse was reared on a 1,500-acre farm. His father's land holdings were so large that the property was divided into 3 sections, each with their own overseer. The farm was completely self-sufficient with a cotton gin, sawmill, thresher, shop, spring house, smokehouse, and a goose pen. Leslie Ennis described Jesse Dorman as having blue eyes and sandy hair. Jesse was said to have been very energetic with an artistic talent. On Saturday nights, the younger people in the community met at the Dorman farm for square dancing. During these events, Jesse was known for his flute playing. With the outbreak of the Civil War, Jesse enlisted in the spring of 1861 with the 1st Company, 2nd Louisiana Regiment. At some point in the war, he served in the 4th Brigade, Johnson's division in the Army of Northern Virginia. It is unknown how Jesse originally became part of a Louisiana regiment, but he remained in service throughout the remainder of the war. He was in the Battle of Manassas, Potomac, Jacobs Ford, the Battle of Gettysburg, and a number of others. He was wounded several times. He went into battle in his shirt sleeves and with bare feet. Many times he was hungry, and naturally he suffered the hardships of fighting 4 years. In the letters to his mother and father, he expressed tender love and appreciation for the Christian home training. Jesse returned from the war in the fall of 1865 and married Addie Abernathy on October 17th. The young couple moved into the original parcel of property on the Dorman farm. It was there that they built a home that still stands to this day. Jesse settled into work on the family farm, mainly as a carpenter and mason. He also took up photography. Jesse and Addie Dorman remained on the Dorman family farm until the 1880s, when they moved to what would become Altoona. Why or how they made this transition is not recorded in family history, but Jesse's brother Allen Dorman was a Baptist preacher. Several years after the war, he settled in Horton in Marshall County, where he pastored a church and tended to his farm. In visits from Chambers County to Horton, Dorman would have had the chance to look at various properties along the way. Family history also records that Dorman bought land around Altoona that was rich in coal and made a nice profit off of it. Unfortunately, deeds and other records do not support this narrative. However, by 1880, the mineral wealth in the Altoona area was starting to become more pronounced. It may have been in Dorman's plan to exploit the natural resources, or perhaps to play a part in the coming boom that resulted in the town of Altoona. With a background in carpentry and masonry, it's possible that he played a pivotal role in the construction of the original mining camps. When the Dormans left Chambers County, they would only return for a few visits until their death. The remainder of their life would be spent in Altoona. A decade ago, when I wrote Tales from Altoona Cemeteries, the entire premise of the book was a compilation of short biographies on each individual. In many cases, such as Altoona veterans like Dorman, I did not explore their relationship to, or their time in Altoona. Now, 10 years later, a look at the Dorman's property transaction opens a new door on their time in Altoona, one that was not explored previously. On December 11, 1880, Dorman acquired the 20-plus acres of property in what would eventually become Altoona. It is unknown when the couple actually moved to Altoona, as the deed was recorded in June 1891. Family tradition states that when the Dormans moved to Altoona, they built, quote, a nice home. While the exact role, if any, that Dorman played in the founding of Altoona is unknown, by the time Altoona was established, he started to sell some of his property. Maggie Thompson acquired 5 acres in November 1900. The next year, Dorman sold some additional property to Thompson. However, at this point, the deed lists the land in question as a lot. The selling of lot-sized parcels continued in 1903 when Dorman sold a half-acre to W. J. Cleveland. An additional acre went to W. O. Hullett the next year. Maggie Thompson also purchased a second lot in 1904. W. C. Thompson acquired a lot in 1906. While there is no subdivision on record at the time of these records, it's hard to imagine Dorman not seeing the boom that was happening around him and wanting to be a part of the opportunity that was happening in Altoona. In 1907, 1 year after the W. C. Thompson deed, Dorman recorded the Dorman Addition subdivision plat in the Etowah County Probate Office. Why Dorman sold lots well before the actual recording of the plat is unknown. What makes the recording of the subdivision interesting is that all of Dorman's deeds after the creation of the subdivision go to J. Freeman and Nora Thompson. The first sale of property, lots 2 through 4 of Block 4, come in 1907. However, just 4 years later, the Dormans retained that 1 acre that contained their house and sold the rest of their property to the Thompsons. The final deed took place in 1920, with the Dormans transferring the house to the Thompsons for $100. This transaction is referenced in the Dorman family history, which states, Jesse Dorman built another small home, and he and his wife moved into that. He gave the big house to a Mr. and Miss Thompson to care for them when they needed help. 3 months later, on the morning of July 12, 1920, Jesse told his wife that he was going home and not to grieve, for he was prepared and willing. He said that life had been good. After he had laid down a while, he said, quote, Behold thy mother, she has taught me, and quietly and quickly died. Dorman was laid to rest in Altoona Walnut Grove Cemetery. An obelisk headstone was erected. Some time later, a memorial marker commemorating his service in the Civil War was placed nearby. After Jesse's death, Addie Dorman remained at the care of the Thompsons. When the sister visited in 1925, she reported that Addie was being cared for in the best style, and that she has the loving hands to minister to her every wish. In July 1926, the 83-year-old Dorman fell in the Thompsons' home, injuring her hip, an injury from which she never recovered, passing away a short time later on July 22nd. She was buried in Altoona Walnut Grove Cemetery next to her husband. As I researched and prepared for the video, I noticed that the Find a Grave page where the Dormans have been updated with photos. I was able to make contact with a Dorman relative who manages the memorial and was provided additional information and photos. It has been a great experience to finally be able to put a face with the couple and revisit their story with additional details.